Hello and welcome to this episode of Retail Media Thursdays with me. I'm your host, David Sequeira, and today I'll be speaking to Lauren Lavin from WPP Media North America. Lauren, introduce yourself, a little bit about your role, and we'll get started.
Thank you for having me. Lauren Lavin, I lead commerce for North America at WPP Media. What does that mean? Basically, all my teams are the ones that are planning and executing retail media, mostly for our CPG clients.
Lauren, so we normally start with a sneak peek of the week. So something you've seen, heard within the industry that's piqued your interest. Anything come to mind?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've spent the last week at CES, most of the industry, and so I think there were a lot of great innovations, a lot of great discussions there. Everything from obviously AI to different in-store opportunities. So there was a lot of things that piqued interest that will be coming out this year for us all to have opportunity with.
Nice. Did you enjoy Vegas?
As much as one can enjoy Vegas the first week of January, yes.
I think that's always it. Okay, so we're going to get into the questions now. So the first question I have for you, you've obviously seen the Skai State of Retail Media report that we brought out for 2026.
Yep.
Anything surprise you within that?
Yeah, I think there were different sections that we went through with like retail DSPs and measurement, which weren't overly surprising based on where we've been. I think obviously the Gen AI section is a new one for this year. It was a little bit surprising in that I think the majority, I think you had like 60% of brands and agencies that said that they were using Gen AI, but 75% of them said there was no meaningful impact to their business. And I think that maybe wasn't surprising as much as to me showed a little bit of the branding around Gen AI and how I think that's affecting sort of what people think it is and its impact on our industry. Meaning, I think retail media probably was one of the first industries that was impacted by generative models. If you think back 5 years ago, 7 years ago, pre-COVID era, however many years ago that was, we were having dynamic ads on Amazon, right, that were pulling in creative and using algorithms to write text, and that was, using generative models there. We had auto-targeting that started 5 years ago that was really serving ads based on intent signals with no actual explicit rules written around it. And so when you think about that and sort of how it foundationally has been part of this industry for quite a while now, it's surprising to me that people think that we haven't been impacted by it. And I think that that's a little bit of the past year. There's been such a push around like having it in the forefront instead of the background. So like, am I using AI as sort of like a co-pilot to my daily? Is it like a tool that I'm using instead of, is it doing sort of process improvements or performance improvements in the background, which it has for us for a long time and continues to. And so I think it's interesting that a lot of people think that they're not seeing it impact retail media when I think we probably were impacted by it more than really a lot of other people.
Mm-hmm. And in terms of just on that one, on the AI piece, when you're using it and you are trying to find the impact, there's efficiencies, there's operational stuff, there's performance, like where are you seeing the most gains?
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, performance to date has been the biggest one. I think we're going to find a lot of efficiencies to be had as far as repeatable tasks and workflows that we have been doing that will be made more efficient through the use of AI. And so I think that's probably the biggest one for this year. There's definitely, I think, going to be more impactful upside this year and the years coming that people will take note and say, yes, it is impacting my day-to-day. I would say to date, it's been a lot of more of the like background sort of performative improvements that we've seen.
Okay, cool. So another thing that I thought was interesting within the report was that a brand is on average using 6 retail media networks at the moment, and that is going to increase to 8 by the end of 2026.
Yeah.
How do you and your teams determine where to double down or where to say no?
Yeah, I mean, six to 8 sounds like a dream. We have some using dozens at a time here. I think that there's sort of 3 different ways I would look at it. One that we've obviously been looking at is what is your capability? Because not all capabilities are equal when you look across these different retailers. And so that is what we've been talking about for years. Just like, are you operating as, if you want to play in the media game, are you operating as a media publisher? You're holding yourselves to those standards. Is there transparency? Is there reporting? All of those types of things. I think the second one that's come up a little bit more recently is, are you willing to share data? And that's just not even media data and media KPIs, but actual in-store data, consumer behavior data, margin data, inventory, whatever it may be. Are you willing to share enough data for me to garner insights to be able to actually drive my business forward? I think that that's a big one that everyone is sort of putting pressure on the retailers today to do outside of just media metrics. I think the third one is obviously, can we measure incrementality? And is the money we are spending actually driving new growth for the business? Whereas, a lot of it has just been media attribution growing with revenue remaining flat. So I think incrementality is probably the third one, I would say, are the big three. If you can do those three, then the doubling down and the money is going to come to you.
Okay. So not all retail media networks are created equal right now?
No, very much not.
Okay.
Yeah.
So on the topic of incrementality, we've seen now that it continues to be, let's say, the hardest challenge to solve. For you, is this a tooling issue? Is it a data issue? Is it operational? All of the above? How do you see it?
Yeah, I think that it's D, all of the above, to be honest with you. I think even the definition of incrementality is defined so differently based on who you're talking about it with, what brand, what partner. For me, the major things are really to make sure that you are measuring incrementality correctly. And why it's so difficult is actually harnessing all of that data together, right? And so there's so many disparate places that you need to get it from. And again, we're not talking about just media data. We need POS data and we need shelf data. And so it's a lot of data to sort of take in, and it's a lot of different access points that you need to find it at different retailers. I think the second part is, again, now if you can get all of that data, cleansing it and normalizing it at the speed and granularity in which you need to be able to actually then measure it for incrementality, so you're not using disparate data sets that are all coming at you differently, is really hard to do. And that is also saying that for our world, you need to do it very quickly, right? We don't have 6 months to wait for an MMM to come back and make optimizations off of it. You need to really be doing this in real time. And so that's a lot of work to be done on a daily basis. I think the third thing is really the methodology behind it. And so that's where I think a lot of the differences in the definition is what is the definition of incrementality. And to me, it's really making sure that you are looking at all of those data sets, you're looking at them quickly, and that you are able to define a methodology within your organization that is going to drive incremental sales. And so those three things are extremely hard to do. It takes a lot of stakeholders, it takes a lot of data. And so that's why I think that it's very difficult right now. I was actually surprised. I feel like in your report it said that it was a good percentage of people that thought they were doing it very well, which was surprising to me based on my definition of incrementality, which is sort of all of those things put together. But I think that's why it's so difficult for organizations to be able to prove that out now, because of the timing and the amount of data.
But it's the biggest topic of conversation for your clients. That's coming up all the time.
It comes up every single day. And I think to that point, it's hard for CPGs or organizations to be able to build that internally and be able to put that capital into being able to do that. And so for us, they look at us as sort of the orchestration point of being able to sort of get that moving for them. But it definitely comes up every day and is probably the biggest thing. If you use the word ROAS, you're out of the industry at this point, right? So everything's about incrementality and about being able to measure that.
And as we're on the topic, just one more question. Are there partners that you're using now that are helping you solve this? Is there someone that you look at and go, right, that's going to help us right now?
Yeah, for measurement here, I think the same way that people don't want retail media networks grading their own homework, we think it's important to not be necessarily grading our own homework. So we partner with a third party called Incremental. that is able to has built all of this out. We feel like they have the best methodology that we agree with as a company as WPP. So we're partnering with them to bring sort of this on a real-time basis to clients, and then my team is able to optimize against that to really move money around to campaigns that we know are driving incremental sales.
Nice. And clients are starting to see the benefits of that?
Definitely seeing the benefits. So we have great success last year, and so as more retailers come on board and as more we're able to sort of show across channel and cross retailer really how things should be moving to sort of drive, and it helps them in their decisioning, right, as far as and us in the investment allocation across like not only campaigns but really then on a larger basis, like which media networks are really driving that growth.
Got it. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, Lauren, so you've already mentioned AI when we were talking a little bit about some of your feedback from CES. So we're seeing the LLMs like ChatGPT and Gemini almost become like channels within their own right, standalone.
Yeah.
And then we're seeing Agentic influence things like search, social, retail media.
Yeah.
What advice would you give brands in this space in terms of how they can think about either planning, investing, or even organizing themselves in 2026?
I think that being in the paid media space, everyone obviously goes right to investing, like right out of the gate. Like, when can I test this? When can I invest? Because I don't want to be behind. I want to be an alpha partner, which is great. And like testing, and we've already seen some testing with like the chatbots on the retail sites. But I would say this year especially, we're not in a place where there's going to be investment that's going to be able to scale by any means. And so I think this is really the year to organize yourself as a company. Originally, there was SEO that we did for like Google ads. And then there was PDP, SEO that we did for the Amazons, the Walmarts, and all the retailers. And now I think it's moving into machines are going to be reading all of this information. And so what do we need to go back and fix organically as far as product pages go? Copy, pricing, right, is going to be something that's very automatically read. Claims, all of those types of things, getting yourself sort of your house in order, I think this year is going to be essential, because you're not going to be able, probably once this starts moving, playing catch up is going to be difficult. And so I think it's really important that you have sort of your brilliant basics, going back, sort of rethinking them to how are machines going to read all of this information outside of people, because they're really going to be the ones, especially with like voice assistants, they're going to be the ones that are making sort of the decisions within themselves even before it gets to you. So I think we just need to be really aware of what we need to do from the organic and sort of laying the foundation again as to like how we can set ourselves up for success there. But I would say for investment, you can test and learn a little bit this year when opportunities come up, but I don't think that that's going to be a real big push for this year. Okay. I think that will be in the future.
And how do you organize yourselves as an agency around this type of challenge or opportunity?
Yeah, I think from an AI perspective, I think you can see retailers already being like super bullish about it, right? Because their entire sort of business model depends on the success of this. So they're moving very quickly. As an agency, we're really moving into this like orchestration role, right? Where we're trying to make sure that all of these systems, right, and all of these stakeholders and everything are orchestrated correctly to move into this era. I think the CPGs are the ones that are going to sort of have to decide how they're making decisions and maybe change a little bit about how they're going to make decisions to go to market. And so that's how I sort of see like the three of us existing in this new world.
So we've talked retail media fragmentation, we've talked AI, we've talked about measurement. Where do you think the brands have the negative question here, but the biggest chance of failure in 26? Yeah,
I actually think that we've seen in retail media a little bit of the fatal flaw of some of these brands already, which is slowness, sort of to what I was just saying with decisioning. And so there's a lot, we've been struggling and grappling with for retail media right now, sort of who has the decisioning power between media, sales, and trade, right, in this area. There's a lot of governance, there's a lot of red tape, there's a lot of stakeholders, and it has slowed us down into making decisions sometimes that can drive growth based on different inputs and conflicting things that are coming at us. And so I think when AI comes on, I think that CPGs are really going to see themselves falling behind faster if they don't sort of decide up front how they're going to change how decisions are made and the speed at which decisions are made. I don't think in this world you can wait multiple weeks and months for them to get themselves together on their end and sort of wade through all of the different groups and things that are there. I think they really need to start thinking about how they're going to be able to make decisions much faster, because humans still will be making the decisions. Like AI will be helping with the execution, but if they're slow to do that, they're going to sort of fall behind if other brands are faster in that space.
So do you think that the technology is currently faster than how, I guess, the businesses that exist can handle it?
I think it will be very shortly. I think right now it's like we're sort of just wading through that. But to that point, I brought up before sort of like auto campaigns for search and other things. There has been, and even on our side, on the agency side, there has been this a little bit resistance to just letting the machines go, right? You still want control, you still want approval, you still want some sort of ability to manually be able to override it, or just, you don't want to just like let it go. And so I think there's a little bit of that still needs to take place, but I think we can't sort of dig our heels in and say like, oh no, like I don't trust this optimization, or like I still need to be in control of this. I feel like we have to get to a point where we're letting a lot of that sort of happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, the human machine debate goes on.
Yes.
Okay, well look, Lauren, thank you so much for your time today. It's been fascinating talking to you.
Yeah.
And cheers.
Cheers.
Have a great
Thanks.
day. Thank you.
Yep.